Hey guys, it's me, Kelly Ann. I recorded this earlier, but whenever I got to the bit where I wanted to show stuff on my phone started blowing up, and I'm having one of those days where you just want things to go right, and if they don't, it like sends you into like an emotional meltdown. I'm having one of those days. So as soon as I've recorded a ton of stuff this morning. I've been YouTube wise very productive this morning, and as soon as I went to go show my phone earlier, that's whenever everybody apparently like woke up in the world and started texting me, and I think I'm better now. But anyways, I'm going to re-record this video, and the thing that I wanted to show at the end, I've been rather inspired by a couple of you, and I will talk about that after I talk about my proposed June plans. So what I have mostly planned for June is the catch up of my SALs, because I didn't work on a lot of them in May, and so some of them I haven't even touched since April, and I just want to work on those, and then I have two others like thrown in there, and then obviously of course my HAED. So let's just jump into it, and I'm not going to do them in any particular order because the order throughout the month may change, but the patterns I don't think are going to this month because I truly want to work on my SALs. The only thing that may change is my two other patterns this month that aren't SALs or my HAED. They just may not get worked on because I really am wanting to work on my SALs. So this is my Linens and Threads mystery band sampler. This one I'm definitely not going to get caught up on. Like I've said several times every time I talk about this is definitely not going to get finished until 2018. But here's January. I'm almost done with February, or I feel almost done with February. I don't have much of February left, and I don't have much of March left. I am going to put 2017 here. I've already charted how that's going to look for myself. And then I started April. Now, April is this lighter yellow color. It's number 90 in DMC. The May is going to be 111, which is a golder variegated thread. And then June is number 92. So, earlier I failed at showing this, but these are the next three colors in comparison with the rest of them. I probably won't start, if anything, I'll do like a little bit of June. Y'all know that I like to get at least a little bit of each month's color on here just to see the color progression and make sure that I still like it, which at this point I'm not picking anything out, but I could, you know, choose a different tone of variegation because there are more options. But in March's band, I am putting the year. In October's band, I'm going to put my initials. But in June and July, I might do something in the center of that, like a quote or something that's stitching related. So for June, if anything, I may do like kind of like this, like the start of it, just to see the coloring and the band height before I see what July is, so that way I can decide if I want to chart something for myself for the middle of the chart or not, if that makes any remote sense. So I do want to get some work on the mystery band sampler done in June. The next one that I want to get caught up, or at least my version of caught up for most people would be to finish all the borders, and I'm just not that type of person. I like to do things as I go, but I do want to finish the center motif where it says happily ever after, and I need to add in Robin Hood, and so I'll finish the borders down across there, and I want to get June's block finished, and I'll do his borders, and I might do the border for the next one. It just depends on how I'm feeling. But I tend to do the portion of the border with that month. So that's where I'm hoping to be with that. I want to do May and June's block, and if not get the center motif finished, get it pretty close to finished. The next one that I want to work on is my charity SAL. And I mentioned this in the last video that I showed this, but the May block goes right here, and there's a part of it that bothers me. So if you can tell on April's, there is a space right here in between the quotes border and the double blue border. And on May's, there's not a space. And that really bothers me. So I'm waiting to see where June's quote goes. I have a feeling it's going to be in one of these two spots. But, and if that's the case, I will stitch June, and then I will work on the top motif, and, you know, start completing the side of the piece. And you can tell I picked out all of the fill-in background from the top motif. I'm leaving some of the accent pinks, but I took out the fill-in pinks because I'm not going to fill it in. I like my fabric way too much. And I didn't have a whole lot to pick out. I think it took me an hour to pick out a couple different sections that I had already done. So depending on where June's is placed, I may not do May's because I want to wait until I have another quote on this side to see if adjusting this one by 2 columns is going to mess up the other patterns for that side, if that makes sense. So I'm waiting to see June's pattern for that and see where it belongs. And if not, then I'll just finish June and get some work done on the title and finish up the borders, so that way I can see the next one that affects the side that I want to make adjustments to. And that's purely because I'm OCD. The next one is my HAED. I'm actually working on this all the rest of this month of May. So I still have a lot of black to finish for my first page, but all I have left on my first page is black. For June, my second page, I'm going to do the diagonal one from page 1, which will be on row 2. I think it's page 9 for me. I'm going to do that one because it does continue a little bit of the background, but it does get into some confetti of the side of her veil. Oh, I have the picture right here. I'll just show you. It does get into the side of her veil right about here and a little bit of her hair and skin. And the solid black is taking me longer than I thought that it would. I'm at a point where I don't need the pattern or the page pattern anymore to work on it, but the solid black is taking me a little bit more time than I thought. So I don't know if a page with confetti would be faster for me, and I think it's mostly because I don't have to use the pattern anymore. I noticed that the parts of the page, and I talked about this in my HAED video, the parts of the page where I had to pay attention to where the second color on the page was going to be, I went through it a lot faster than the solid chunks of black. So I'm thinking that the second page, with having more than just black on it, is going to be faster for me. The 2 patterns that I'm hoping to get work on, but again, these are the only 2 that may or may not happen. But I may take them to work on at lunch. But I want to work some on my Ouija board pattern. I'm about 40% done with this. 45% done with this. So I really, really like this pattern, and I would love to see it done. And so this is scheduled for working in June. And since I finished Summer Beach Day, I moved up bringing out my Mermaid Lagoon by Satsuma Street. This is where I'm at with her. So I have some left to finish on her body, and then some seaweed and fish up here, and then a bunch of seaweed and fish above her left to do. So yeah, I have that to work on for a few days this month as well. And I talked about taking stuff to lunch at work. That's how I finished the Dream Big Little One and the Summer Beach Day in May. So I'm taking a pattern. I'm taking my temperature garden every day with me to work again. And I started on March's flowers some. So I'm working on my flowers for March. And I'll just deal with back stitching whenever I want to get the flowers pretty caught up, and then I'll work on back stitching. But I'm going to take this to get flowers caught up on this. And I also have the fabric, and I'm using the same colors and like color range for the 2005 one for my hometown. So I have those that I'm going to bring with me every day. And then I'm also, just to mix it up, because I know I won't always want to work on the temperature garden, but if I want to work on something else, I'm going to bring other patterns that are close to finish. So for the beginning of June, I'm going to be bringing my 12 Days of Christmas by the Frosted Pumpkin, because I'm very close to a finish. I have about 5 colors left between these 3 blocks, and then I have the gray color that is the lace border around the entire thing. So I feel like I can get this done with maybe like a week and a half to 2 weeks of lunches. So I may, you know, do like 3 days this, 2 days this a week, or vice versa. I also like to read physical books at lunch. So some days if I don't feel like stitching, I may pull out a physical book at lunch. Which brings me to my inspired part. So back in April, I got really inspired whenever you know, Michelle and some other people were doing their videos. They talk about the books that they've been reading at the end. And I've lived in my town for 12 years, and I've never had a public library card. I remember whenever they built the new public library here, but I was still a college student, and I had access to the college library and would check out books that way. But I was doing research, and I was like, I should get a library card. Like, I have so many books on my wish list, but they're, you know, a lot of them are still really expensive, even for like the PDF versions, or I shouldn't say PDF versions, but like the ebook versions, like my Kindle, that I just sometimes get discouraged. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to read through the ones here at my house, which I do. So I always have my Kindle, a physical book, and now my phone with Overdrive on it. So I found out that my library here in town, first of all, it's free to get a public library card. So if you don't have one, you should find your local public library and get one. But that my library partners with an app for the phone called Overdrive. And it's really, really awesome. It's an extension of your library card. It's a free service where you sign in with your library card and number, and you can check out ebooks or audiobooks. You get them for the same amount of time as if you were to check them out at the library, 14 days. And whenever your time runs out, if you don't request it again, it automatically goes back, so you don't have to worry about late fees. Well, while I'm at work or while I'm working out or anything like that, if I'm not teaching and I'm just working on a project and I can kind of have my mind somewhere else at the same time, because I don't know why, but I'm able to do that, I listen to audiobooks, and I've been listening to books for the last month to month and a half. Well, I guess really like the last month. I've finished the first Game of Thrones book. I had started reading it, like physically reading it, and I checked out the audio. I finished reading the Games of Thrones book. I've finished reading which by the way, Game of Thrones, total 5 stars, exactly like the first season of the show. I also finished Me Before You, another 5-star book. It's exactly like the movie. I've also finished the first in the Wicked series by Janet Ivanovich, which is the Lizzie and Diesel series. Kind of more like 2 to 3 stars for me. I didn't really get into it, but I am going to read the other 2 books because it's kind of like a train wreck. You just can't look away from it. So I just kind of want to know what happens, but at the same time, I don't really care. But I did finish the first book. It's not so great. I do like other Janet Ivanovich series. I like the Stephanie Plum series, but this one was just not really for me. But I still have to finish it out because that's just the way my mind works. I also listened to, finished reading Allegiant. Yes, which is the final book of the Divergent series. It was about a 4 for me. I already knew how it ended, and I had known for like a year and a half. And I've also seen the movie, so it was more of like a comparison thing for me. And since I already knew what happened, it was just to see how the book described it. And I think it's just the series just kind of fizzled out for me. I'm just kind of like over the series. It's kind of like the other one. I needed to finish reading it just to finish reading it, if that makes sense. But it was more of like a 4 for me. I also finished reading Hillbilly Elegy. It's a biography. That's been on the bestsellers list for a while. It is really, really, really good. 4 to 5 stars for me. Hillbilly Elegy. It's by J.D. Vance. You should definitely give it a shot. I also finished Room, which that was total 5-star. It took me a little bit to get into because the book is written from the perspective of a 5-year-old. If you don't know about this book, it has been made into a movie. It won a ton of awards last year, I believe. It's basically the mom of this 5. It starts out the child turns 5. But the story is told through the eyes of the 5-year-old, with input from adults here and there. But basically, the kid's mom was abducted and put into this room. 7 years ago. And 2 years into it, she had this child. You're coming in at his 5th birthday. And it's told about the situation from the kid's eyes and how he perceived everything. And he's only ever known about this room and this man that comes, and does different things and provides them with food and etc. and a Sunday treat and blah, blah, blah. And it also talks about, it goes into their escape and the beginning of their reintegration into the world after being rescued. So, a really, really, really good book. It's a totally different take on those type of situations. I've read J.C. Dugard's book, and Emily Smart's is on my list to read. So it's a different take on those stories that we hear about in the news years after, whenever they're able to finally escape. So it's really good. You should check it out. Currently, what's in my queue, I also finished something else that was amazing. Oh, Zoo. I finished reading Zoo yesterday. No. The day before yesterday, I finished Zoo. I have been obsessed with the show for 2 summers. This summer is season 3. I will say that the book and the show kind of have to be separated because the show starts in the book is separated into 4 books, more like sections, but they call it books. The show starts in book 2 of the first book. But key characters in the TV show are either killed off in the book or aren't even in the book. There's concepts in the show that aren't in the book, but a lot of stuff overlaps. So they're basically, they're very similar, but they're very distinctive on their own, both 5 stars. You should check out the book, but you don't have to read the book to get into the show. You can get into them at different times for totally separate reasons. There is a Zoo 2. It's only available right now on Overdrive as an EPUB, so whenever I'm on hold for some books, so whenever those stop coming in, I will check out the ebook. But I will show you what's currently on my bookshelf. Yesterday, I started The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. That is amazing. It's been made into a movie on HBO starring Oprah Winfrey. I have not watched the movie yet. I do have it recorded because it came on during a free preview like a month ago. And I was like, that sounds really cool. And then I found out that it was a book about a real person. So if you like real things, this is history, it's medical history, it's science history. It's really, really good. I'm 40% of the way through this, and I love, love, love listening to it. Also on my bookshelves are the last 2 books of that Janet Ivanovich series, the Lizzie and Diesel, Wicked Business, and Wicked Charms. So I'm going to go ahead and still listen to them. I also have Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I will say I have seen the movie. For me, the movie, I love the people that were in it. I love the concept. I think they failed in some areas because I did get bored here and there, and I feel like there was so much to the story they could have done better. But I also have not read the book. I have heard that the book is better. And all 3 of the books that are currently out for this series are available on audio. So I just received the first book the other day, so I can't wait to jump into that. I also just received Jojo Moyes' After You, which is the second book to Me Before You. I really cannot wait to see how this story ends, so I cannot wait to read this one. And this morning I received Brooklyn. This has also been made into a movie. I actually own it and I love it. 5 stars for the movie. Can't wait to read the book and see how it differs. If it differs, I will let y'all know. I think me talking about books isn't going to be in every video. I think maybe it'll be in my proposed monthly plan video. Just because it is fun to talk about. I do love books, and I love reading. I also, on my Kindle, I'm reading Wicked. I'm reading the 2nd book of the Wizard of Oz series. I'm also reading the 5th book of the Charlene Harris Aurora Teagarden series. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's Dead Over Heels, I believe, is the 5th book. That's the one that I'm on. I'm also reading a medical book right now. I'm in the middle of a lot of books. You should find me on Goodreads. I'm in the process of a lot of books. Another book that I know that I'm going to receive within the next day or 2, because I've had it on hold, is A Man Called Ove, and that one's also been a bestseller for a long time, so I can't wait to read that, and it is also, from what I heard, being made into a movie. So all these great books, and all different ranges of storylines, and then I'm also 3rd in line to have the audiobook of 13 Reasons Why. I have not watched the show. I have heard that the show is very different from the book, or parts of it are very different from the book. So I'm waiting to get the book, listen to that, and then I will watch the show at some point this summer. But I am 3rd in line on 1 copy. So it's going to take a little while for me to get that. I'll probably get it in June. I might get it in July. Not really sure. It just depends on how fast the other people finish reading it. But this app is absolutely fantastic if you have a public library card, or even if you don't. If you like EPUBs and or audiobooks, you should give it a shot. It's free with your library card if your library is a partner with it. But that is what I wanted to share with y'all today in my June's video, my proposed video. So yeah, I think the book thing will be a once a month thing. I don't know. We'll see. It's new for me, but I think it's really cool to inspire education and things like that. So, even in silly books, but I read a very weird variety of books. I like a little bit of everything. So it'll be fun telling y'all about the books that I finish each month, because I average about at least 2 books a week with the audio, and then, you know, I'm also reading EPUBs and physical books. So I always have like 8 million books in the works. So thank y'all so much for joining me again for another video, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.